Thank you all so much for being here today. I appreciate your time. And of course, thank you for your service. I'm going to do my best. And if you are not the right person that I'm directing the question to, I totally accept you moving me on to the correct person. But I think the first person I want to ask a question, and I hope it's the right person, is Captain Beck. I'm curious about the transition process. Are serving women upon release screened for women-specific issues, such as up-to-date on PAP and mammogram, offered HPV vaccine if appropriate, sexual violence, IPV, MST, urinary incontinence, their reproductive history while in the military alone with their reproductive hazardous exposures? Are those also fully documented?
Thanks for the question, Mr. Chair. I don't have the answer to all of that, but I would sure hope they are doing those things. So part of the key to leaving the military is transition of care to the civilian workforce. So there is an exam prior to, and an appointment prior to release. And certainly those types of things should be assured by their primary care provider. Obviously, I'm on the mental health front, and Colonel Wright might be able to answer that a little better. I don't want to.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
If no one has the answer, could that be provided to the committee at a later date?
Sure. I don't want to throw her under the bus, but she may know.
Colonel Wright, do you know the answer?
So we are actually just in the process of revamping or adjusting the screening tools that we do use before a medical, our periodic medical health exams, which includes the one on release. And so we are making it a much more thorough with respect to women's issues and diversity health issues as well. So your question hits right onto an effort that we're already working on to optimize there.
Okay, so I just really want to make sure that I understand this. So is this a list that is being added to make sure that process is done? And if so, could we actually have what that preliminary list looks like or where you're going with that? Because one of the concerns that I have, of course, in this study is what we're hearing from women veterans is that they're having to prove that the impact of their service was actually why they have the health issue. And what they are doing the vast majority of the time is fighting to get that recognized and appealing, which means they're not getting the support they need because they keep having to appeal. So I just want to clarify, Colonel Wright, can you give us information that gives us some guidance so that as a committee we understand?
Well, it's in progress to be able to make the list more robust, let's say. And it isn't, I wouldn't describe it as a list exactly. It's a screening form that the member goes through, but it helps remind the member of things that they might want to bring up with their clinician. You know, you might not think about it that day with a lot of things going on. So it helps remind the member what to say and the clinician. And so that's the goal, is that we're getting on both sides to make sure these things are addressed.
So you said there's a screening form. Can we have access to that? And would you prefer us to ask for access to that? Because this study is quite long. Would you like us to ask for that maybe in September?
That would be perfect, because we really are working on it right now. And I'd really like to be able to show you the final version as opposed to the interim version. But of course, if you would like the interim version, we could provide that as well.
Okay. Maybe we'll have both just so that we can show the change. I think that would be excellent. So thank you for that. One of the things that we've also heard, and I'm going to come to Colonel Wright on this and advise me if I need to go somewhere else, is that sometimes women veterans, when they leave, don't often go to VAC. And so I'm wondering if you see a benefit or need for a transition group to offer a barrier-free mental health support, no claims, no paperwork, just for a period of time, say maybe the first 2 years, so that we can fill that gap and make sure that people transition smoothly, because it seems like there's a process where they're getting lost and sometimes being refound many years later. And I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Given that your question involved mental health, I'm going to direct to Captain Beck.
Excellent.
Well done, Helen. No, that's obviously an important process, and as I mentioned, we need that smooth, seamless transition of care. So one of the things we try to do, if somebody's going to have long-term care, particularly if they're going to be medically released, but even if they're not, ensure that there's a civilian provider. Oftentimes, like for instance, seeing a psychologist in the civilian community. Let's get that established before they release from the military. So we do have a very close relationship with our community civilian providers, whether it's psychiatry or psychology. So I think that, we have a mandate to treat military members. We lose that mandate once they release, as you, I'm sure, are aware. However, it doesn't mean we forego sort of our responsibility in taking care and smoothly transitioning them to a mental health provider in the community. So there's got to be that very good communication. Just like if I referred somebody to the emergency department, I would pick up the phone and say, here's why I'm sending you. So it's really about communication, both with civilian providers and with our Veterans Affairs colleagues through our nurse case managers and their case managers. So we're really trying to close the gap by having some continuity and also some alignment of services and benefits. So that work's been ongoing for several years, to be honest, but I think we're getting there.
Okay, so how many clinical psychologists actually work for CAF then?
Well, that's a good question. So I was trying to pull that up before we started. So I can't answer that, and I can certainly get that back to you as far as the number within the clinics.
Okay.
We have, all our psychologists are civilian providers. They're not uniformed. And we use a lot of community psychologists, particularly in more remote areas. So honestly, I wish I could give you that number right off, and I should be able to, but I certainly can provide it afterwards.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.